Answer that question, I want to provide you with some context about what has changed since 2020 and what has not. Pennsylvania law controlling when counties can begin opening and processing mail ballot envelopes has not changed. That work can still only begin at 7 a.m. on Election Day. There are plenty of other states, red states, blue states, even Florida, which begin that process earlier. In Pennsylvania, again, it can only begin at 7 a.m. That is, of course, at the exact same time, our county partners are also opening the doors to more than 9,000 polling locations for 13 hours of in-person voting. The opening and processing of mail ballots, known as pre-canvassing or pre-processing, involves a lengthy series of steps. The clerks or the election officials review the outer declaration envelope to ensure that it is signed and dated within time in which the voter could have cast that ballot. They have to open the outer declaration envelope, extract the secrecy envelope. They have to open the secrecy envelope and extract the ballot. Then they have to flatten, or what's called backbending, the ballot before the actual tabulation of the results takes place. It's a lengthy assembly line. Counting votes itself does not take much time. It's really everything leading up to that that takes the most time. And again, that can't begin in Pennsylvania until 7 a.m. on election morning. All of that is time-consuming work. But it's important to note that some changes have occurred since 2020. First, counties have had access to about $45 million in election integrity grant funding made available every year to them since 2022. Some have used that money to purchase equipment to expedite mail ballot envelope sorting and opening. Other counties have used this money to hire more people to open and process more ballot envelopes. So equipment and more people, which will shorten the time it takes to report unofficial results once the polls close at 8 p.m. on Election Day. County officials also now have more experience handling and processing mail ballots. In 2020, during the peak COVID environment, about 40% of Pennsylvanians voted by the newly available no-excuse mail ballot voting method. That resulted in 2.7 million ballots being cast statewide as county officials were employing new processes and procedures for securely recording votes cast during that period using that new method. Now, 4 years later, county officials have handled 8 elections that include large percentages of votes being cast by mail ballot, so they have the benefit of experience to help guide them. In addition, our data shows that fewer voters, so far about 2.2 million, requested mail ballots this year compared to 2020. So, new equipment, more people, more experience, and fewer votes to count. And finally, the last change I want to highlight, and I feel like this has been fairly underreported, that occurred since 2020, is the requirement for counties to report by midnight on election night the remaining number of ballots they have to count, or the total number that they received, and you can see how many they counted, you can see how many they have yet to count. In 2020, there was no similar mechanism to report the universe of mail ballots that still needed to be counted. So false accusations of found ballots ran rampant on social media during that critical time between the polls closing and the unofficial results indicating who won and who lost. I tell you this really for 2 reasons. Counting millions of ballots takes time. For every single vote cast in this election, there will be a voter-verified paper ballot that each election official needs to securely handle and count. Predicting exactly when Pennsylvania will have unofficial results that show a clear winner is just not possible and never has been. Pennsylvania has never had final results on election night, regardless of when media outlets and others have announced who they've declared as the winner or loser on election night or at a later date. Ultimately, it comes down to, and has always ever come down to, how close a race is. The closer the race, the longer it takes to know who won and who lost. I want to remind you that the people doing the hard work of administering this election are your neighbors at your local polling place and professional civil servants at the county level who are truly making democracy work. They deserve our thanks, our respect, and our patience. I'd like to address one other topic about something we're getting a lot of questions about. Mis and disinformation circulating online, especially videos that are being shared without necessary context. For example, a video yesterday, shared widely, led to false claims that a voter assistance group in Allegheny County was impersonating election officials and intimidating voters. The fact is that there's nothing improper or illegal about volunteers, whose tags clearly indicate that they're volunteers and that they're not working for the county and are affiliated with a partisan political organization or nonprofit, engaging voters outside of a polling place or public building. Criticizing volunteers for properly engaging in permissible electioneering damages our efforts to address the serious issues that can arise from voter intimidation. Prohibited conduct is conduct that attempts to harass or intimidate voters. There's no indication that, in this case, this incident involved voter intimidation at all. Voter intimidation is a crime. True instances should be reported to law enforcement, not irresponsibly shared online. Another video shared widely yesterday that I saw showed an acting postmaster himself bringing mail ballots to the Northampton County Election Office, literally just delivering the mail. That video led to false allegations of ballot harvesting. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the media's effort to get accurate election information to the public. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for our next media briefing to answer your questions.